Hi YouTube, hope you're all well out there. So this is the latest installment, sorry it's been a while. This is for our semi-arid bioactive vivarium build. So here's the vivarium, you can see. We picked this up for free, given away on Facebook Marketplace for a higher humidity sort of setup. So as you can see here, we're just removing part of the top, which is glass. There's a very thin vent down the middle. We'll be removing that as well, so we can make over 50% of the top a mesh lid at a later date to allow for airflow, which fits in semi-arid or arid environment we're trying to create. Here we are. We had to cut through the silicone eventually with a crafts knife, after failing using a razor blade and a Stanley knife. So similarly to our previous video, the calamari gecko build, this was done on a budget using a lot of waste polystyrene, essentially carved into the shapes we wanted. You can see Amy, the artist, making rock shapes out of the polystyrene. Perhaps it takes a bit of imagination at this point, but you can see we've marked out roughly where we want the rocks and things on the background, and we're just trying to fit things to make it look like a natural rocky ledge. Shockingly, I barely come into frame now and help a little bit with sticking polystyrene together. We use cocktail sticks to line things up and then hot glue to stick it together. I suppose you could use silicone or something similar, but the hot glue sticks really quickly and helps us progress quicker. What you don't want to use is super glue, which will actually dissolve its way through the foam. So here you can see Amy just making some little rocks and affixing them to the background. We don't want a flat edge at the top. We want it to look quite natural and blend into the glass at the back, if that makes sense, not a harsh ridge at the top. And you can see it's just sort of placing those rocks at the top, trying to create that softer transition into the glass at the back. And once they're stuck to the back, here you can see Amy using the hot tool just to blend that back sheet in with the bits that have been stuck to it. It's quite successful using this hot tool. It's a cheap one, I think about £5 from Amazon. There's more expensive things that you might have better results with, but we think this does us okay. So the next section we had to do was get the background fitted into the tank. So you can see we've used something as a spacer to match the back with the front, so it's at the right level once it's in. There's no point in having it going underground where we don't need it. So we're just putting aquarium grade clear silicone all over the back. Glamorous assistant is holding and maneuvering it while I'm doing the siliconing all over, and we wedge it in where we want it, line it all up, try and get it as square as possible, and then we just dumped a load of bags of various sorts of substrates to keep applying pressure down on it to get it to stick overnight. So now we move on to the painting or adding the grout to the background. So we've got some grout. You can see the brand there, Maypie. They do several brands. Try and get that one. I did some research. That's the one everyone recommends. So here you can see me just mixing it up. You want it quite watery for the first layer. You don't want it too thick. You just want to get it almost like a primer on a wall. Just a thin layer everywhere for your subsequent stronger layers to stick to. This is just grout and water mixed. And when you're mixing it, try to make sure you just add a little bit of water at a time. It's easier to add a little bit of water just to get the right consistency than it is to add grout to a waterier consistency. So it's pretty watery, not overly so. You want it to stick to the background but manage to get it into all the cracks and crevices, as you can see we're doing here. So Amy's getting involved here. About time she did something. Oh look, and there she is wrapping it up. So you want to get it all covered really, because this is what everything else is going to cling to. If you don't get this right, you need to get good coverage over everything. We had to get it underneath, on top, everywhere, just to make sure everything else is going to stick to it. We also had a couple of caves, hides that we decided we wanted to make to match the background, so we had to get them painted up as well. So in the next bit, you can see the second coat. Second coat's going to be a concrete rather than just grout. So you can see there's some play sand. We had play sand, grout around equal volumes, add water slowly, bit by bit, to make the mix. So you're keeping it pretty dry. It's easier to add a little bit of water at a time than try and dry out a watery mix. So once you've got it to the consistency you want roughly, we decided to add a bit of colour to these layers. So we just added some acrylic paint to the mix. You can see some sort of burnt orange colour there, a lot of red. Surprising amount of bright red we added, because it's sort of muted by the colour of the cement itself anyway. So once that's mixed up, we start applying it. It does dry it a slightly different colour that you'll see. Both of us on it here. And that's the sort of end result in colour. So that leads us to the third coat. Again, a concrete, similar sort of mix. Slightly different colour. Amy tackling this on her own once she's got me out the way. And that gave us the end sort of base colour that we were going to be working with. But you'll see it dries a sort of different colour. Here we are. And this is Amy starting to paint. So sort of dry brush, dark colours. Used for the low lights, obviously light colours for the light lights. So we tend to be guided by the material. If there's a concave bit, do some dry brush low lights. If there's bits sticking out, dry brush highlights, as you can see there. Let things dry, because things always dry different how they look immediately. So once we finished painting, we decided we were going to seal it, and we used Mod Podge matte. There's lots of different Mod Podges out there. So for your first coat you want to get some, but you want to water it down a bit. As seen here, there's about 1-to-1 ratio. But again, add water slowly, and you can always adjust it. You can see the sort of consistency we achieved here. Took a bit of mixing, it doesn't mix that readily. Once you've got a nice sort of watery mix, we added that on. We used Mod Podge matte because we could have used the pond sealer like we had for the fibre toads, but that gives a very wet look, and we didn't think that would look good in an arid environment. And this is animal safe. The only thing is we don't know how long it will last, and it's not waterproof. So in a more rainforest environment, this might not work, but we thought we'd give this a go, as this is going to be an arid build. Now I have seen elsewhere that some people will just leave the acrylic paint as the finish, and that's okay, it's non-toxic. We just thought that by adding the Mod Podge, we might add to the longevity of the background. Help stop cleanup crew chewing their way into the polystyrene, and hopefully the little bit of spraying that will be done to give the plants a little bit of moisture won't affect the background if it's got this coating on. You can see Amy giving the full build a coat here. We did 3 coats in total, all pretty watery, watered down so it could go everywhere. Quite happy with the finish. It's not too gloss, hasn't got that shine that the pond sealer gave us. It won't give us the waterproofing protection either, mind you. But yeah, it's really good. We're quite happy with it. So thanks for watching, guys. That concludes part 1 of this video. That's the background essentially done. We've still got substrate, cleanup crew, planting to be done, creating the lid. Also, see if you can guess what species we're going to be keeping in here. He's been here a while, we've had him in quarantine, and in fact, we're making this video about a month after we've completed the build. So, have a guess down in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you want to see next week's video and find out who's going to live in here. And thanks for watching. Cheers, YouTube. Appreciate it.